It's back, boys. The Premier League returns tomorrow at Stamford Bridge at 2 p.m. as we take on our eternal whipping boys in Crystal Palace. I might be sounding absolutely crazy. We've seen Crystal Palace go on a big body hunt recently. They've beat the two best teams in this country in cup finals, beating Man City in the FA Cup and mounting a ridiculous comeback to win a pen shootout against Liverpool for the Community Shield. So why am I coming with this big talk? Well, we haven't lost a game to Crystal Palace since 2018. We are unbeaten in the last 16 games. We didn't pick up any 3 points against them last season as they picked up credible draws against us. Could the paradigm be shifting right now? Crystal Palace know how to play against the big teams. They relish those occasions. They have the confidence in themselves, in their system, and in their manager in Glasner, who has turned them into one of the most difficult, respected teams in this country. I go into this game feeling very optimistic, feeling very confident after witnessing our team destroy Paris Saint-Germain, after we've earned the rights to call ourselves world champions, and with our form that we've showcased in the Club World Cup and during pre-season. All of us are seeing a mentally sharp Chelsea team. We're seeing a lot of improvements in terms of how we're playing, how we're building up, but most importantly, the solutions we're finding against teams now, the solutions we're finding in the attacking phase. And that's helped by some very astute, very ambitious summer signings this window. João Pedro's, Liam Delap's providing us with two great strikers, which is a situation we have not been in. We've added Jamie Gittins. Some of that combines Mudryk's pace with Jadon Sancho's dribbling threat. Messinho himself, Estevão Willian, is at Chelsea Football Club, and boy does this kid look like the real deal. But if all the improvements in attack isn't enough meat on the bone for you, I think the two big things we're seeing is our pressing structure going up another level, and how much better we are at adapting to the opposition we're playing against, which makes us become an even more well-rounded team. Everything at Chelsea right now has upgraded, and we go into this season witnessing Chelsea 2.0 under Enzo Maresca. And against Crystal Palace, it's about setting a tone right now, and it's about setting a statement. We go into the Premier League as the #1 target on every team's hit list. You don't think these teams want to claim points against the world champions? And Crystal Palace will be our first contesters. They'll feel that with their attack of Mateta, Eze, and Sarr, they have big game players that can break the big clubs. In Mateta, they have one of the most experienced, well-rounded, most feared strikers in the league. In Eze, they have a genuine game changer and match winner, someone that steps up on the biggest occasions and constantly delivers. And in Sarr, they have his unpredictable threat, his confidence, and his drive further forward. To aid this attack, they have one of the most underrated fullbacks in the country in Munoz, and one of the most well-balanced defenses, which contains Marc Guéhi and Lacroix. Regardless of what we do, this team will be hungry, and this team will be ready for this test against Crystal Palace. I am expecting the home crowd to have big energy, supporting the boys from the first minute to the last minute, because right now, there's this general feeling of excitement for this season, of opportunity. I think we're all expecting to be pleasantly surprised by what we can produce with this level of quality that we are now showcasing across the team. So tomorrow, man, it is statement time against Crystal Palace. My friends, first match preview of the season, good vibes only. I would love you to show some love and only hit that like button if you believe we are going to win against Palace tomorrow. Let's try and go over 2K likes, my friends. I hope you guys enjoy the preview, and let's get straight into things. I want to tackle the predicted lineup because I think that's one of the key things you guys want to get onto. So let's not waste no time with that. And essentially, the lineup you're seeing is the same lineup that we used against AC Milan. I think it makes the most sense that we'd use a lineup we're expecting to use for our first game of the Prem season. And you're seeing Sanchez in goal, a defense of James, Tosin, Jalaba, Kuku, Enzo, Caicedo, and in the attack of Neto, Palmer, Gittins, and João Pedro. Let's start things by discussing this attack. I think at the moment, João Pedro is the #1. That doesn't mean that he'll be the #1 forever, because Liam Delap, I don't think, will allow that to happen. He's come here to become the #1 himself. So I'm really excited to see this battle these guys are going to face off against each other throughout the season. I'm hoping at times, depending on the context of particular games, we might even see some of these guys playing up front together. I think with the quality we have, I don't know if Enzo Maresca would shy away from those potential possibilities. But at the moment, João Pedro typifies everything we need in a Chelsea striker. Yes, he is recreating that Nicholas Jackson role, but he is just an upgrade on what Nico offered. I rate Nico, but João Pedro is just more deadlier, more ruthless. His shooting mechanics are ridiculous. He's instantly in sync with the rest of his teammates. He creates threat from all across the attacking lines, and most importantly, his pressing duties up front, the work he puts in. I don't even think we're giving this guy enough credit, because the rest of his game is just literally taking us for a ride. But yeah, João Pedro, for me, this guy is going to have a really important season for us. Supporting him, Gittins on the left, Nets on the right-hand side. I like that type of balance. Jamie Gittins is looking very dangerous with his close controls and his dribbles. I mean, his sharp turns and exits are ridiculous. And low-key, I think it's safe to call this guy the English Robinho, because I don't think I've seen step-overs this clean, this quick, this fast since Robinho was spamming 8 or 9 in the space of 2 seconds. Gittins has that in his game. He is not the finished article, and I think, as I've said about Gittins throughout the summer as we've been linked with him, you need competition down his side. And competition, I think, will only maybe raise the levels of these guys as the season goes on. So I'm excited to see what Gittins does against Palace, especially at just pinning Munoz back and giving us more of a fast, direct threat down that left side. At times, we wanted to do this last season, but Sancho is just not in this game. He doesn't have that type of explosive pace. Mudryk didn't have the brain consistently, but I think Jamie Gittins is probably the best balance of both, right, and really complements his team. Naturally, I think Neto, who's becoming one of the go-to players for Enzo Maresca, he has a big season ahead of him. We know Kenda is around the corner, and at the moment, this club is not afraid to move on experience to bring in the most promising guy. But he has shown a good account of himself, and I like having him in the squad. But I think Estevão will be vying for that spot in the not-too-distant future. And obviously, I think one of the best players of our last few months is Cole Palmer. And the reality is, whatever we do this season is fully reliant on Cole Palmer. I love the fact that it seems like he has a new lease of life now that he's playing with more, I don't want to say players on his wavelength, but now that there's better balance in these attacking areas, it seems like there isn't too much responsibility for him to kind of be the only solution that we can turn to break teams down with. And I think that makes him even more effective, even more dangerous, because that load is now balanced out a lot better. Expect this guy, I think, to get his first goal of the new Prem season. Supporting that, of course, Enzo, Caicedo. I'm loving the fact that Cucurella now is inverting inside midfield as he should be, and I think we're going to see this more now because we don't have to rely upon him to overlap, because we do have Gittins and Co down that left-hand side. That's going to be key to have, because that allows Enzo Fernandez to push forward. And you know, I think Enzo is one of the players I'm really interested to see what he does, because Maresca said religiously throughout last season, listen, all those goals and assists he got last season, getting around 21 goals and assists, Enzo can get more. Enzo can score more. And I think he has to translate this now in the Premier League. As the season ended last season, his goal tally increased, but he can definitely get more consistent and add even more threat. And I think with the threats we have across all the positions right now, I think he could surprise us with the goals he scores, and I think Enzo gets over 10 Premier League goals this season. And obviously, the key talking point now is the defence. Now, originally I thought potentially Achimpong could maybe get in this team. He was tested out playing that central centre-back role against Leverkusen, but I think after seeing the defence Maresca turn to against Milan, I think Tosin at the moment will be the perfect understudy to Levi Cole. Big season for Tosin. If he can make himself a first-team regular, he could be booking himself an England spot this season, and that's the same thing for Chalobah. Chalobah, of course, up against his former loanee club from last season. He'll want to get one over them for sure. Big games from these guys, including Reece James. But I think that balance of Chalobah moving to the left side, Tosin in the middle, and Reece James on the right-hand side, I think that's enough to kind of cope with the threat of Eze, Mateta, and Sarr for sure. And for us, it's all about how we can damage Crystal Palace to really just minimize their attacking threat. So there you have it, my friends. That is my predicted lineup. Share your thoughts and opinions. Of course, expect subs to come on later on. I think Estevão will make his debut. I think Andre Santos, of course, will replace Enzo Fernandez at a point in the game. And maybe Atchimpong, or no, maybe Gusto, I think, replaces Reece James to just kind of ensure that he remains there right to the end. And I think Hato as well. I'll be curious if maybe Cucurella does get subbed off as the game goes on. So share your thoughts and opinions on your predicted lineup below. And to end things now, I want to focus on the key points, Maresca's first presser of the season. Of course, Crystal Palace was the first question, and Maresca revealed that, of course, after they've secured wins against City and Liverpool, they have to be respected. They have a lot of belief behind themselves. They beat the best two teams in the country. So this means we must be competitive and alert from the first minute to the last. I like that. In terms of squad strength that we have seen over the course of the last few months, of course, he says we are stronger than 1 year ago. Not just in terms of recruitment, but also in terms of the fact that his team has now worked under himself now for the last year, which has improved their tactical understanding of the system and his demands. In terms of expectation this season, is this a title challenge? The aura is different right now. The ambitions surely match that, right? But as Maresca says, listen, there's a lot of noise here. A journalist said, aren't you Slot saying that you guys are in a title challenge? And Maresca rebutted by saying, well, he said the same thing last season. You know, as he's always remained consistent with, I don't look to 2 months, 3 months, or even 4 months. Right now, I like to watch tomorrow. I think about the next day. This means my focus is on daily improvement. And at the moment, Crystal Palace is the only thing on my focus right now. But to end things with the big talking point, which is what I'm trying to get to right now, it's the continued conversation around the centre-back position. As we learned yesterday, Maresca essentially called for another central centre-back to replace Levi Cole, and he gave some context to explain why. Essentially, he brought up Wesley Fofana being tested there last season, and I think that was against Leicester City or West Ham. I think that could have been West Ham. And he said that Fofana played one of his worst halves for us, and I agree with that. I remember that for sure. He brought up the example of Badiashiel's performance against Real Betis in the Conference League final. He said that we were losing 1-0 until I brought on Levi Cole, and then from the 61st minute when he was introduced, we ended up scoring 4 goals to turn the game around. And then he brought up how Tosin at the moment is probably the only player he has right now that can play that central centre-back role. And maybe other players like Hatos, Atchimpongs and others might have to adapt or cope. But he kind of stressed the tactical importance of needing that central centre-back. And I've been trying to think about why that's so important. And I think maybe I'm understanding why. So here's what I'm perceiving from that. You know, the central centre-back kickstarts our first phase. He kickstarts the attack, right? He knows when to play passes at the right time and when to break lines at the right time. He's not just spamming it left, right and centre. I think another reason why Cole had a bigger advantage compared to Tosin is that he also has a left foot, which means that certain angles open up a lot better for him as you're up against a lot more right-footed players who are pressing you down right. But I think the most important thing, is probably in terms of leadership, actually, in controlling that back line. The way Cole has communicated, when he tells these guys how to push up and when to fall back, he does a lot of good unspoken work in that aspect. Defending isn't just what you do individually, it's what you're doing as a unit. And every defensive unit needs that general, needs that leader. And there's a reason why Cole has revered working under Thiago Silva. There's a reason why Maresca has had belief that Cole can improve in his leadership capacities. I mean, we're seeing that. So it's a really devastating loss that he gets this injury at this point in time. But regardless, is that enough for us to maybe buy a centre-back? I would probably agree with the club's opinion at the moment. Let's at least assess what happens until the window closes. We can watch at least 2-3 games to see if it's really needed. Once players are sold and we understand how many funds we have, maybe we decide to go back in the market. But in the meantime, I do think with Tosin, with Badia returning quite soon. He revealed that Fofana could be part of the matchday squad. I'd be surprised if he starts though. I don't think he will, but maybe he comes off the bench later on. Achimpong, big interest from Bournemouth and many Prem clubs. If he doesn't play, that might encourage him to move elsewhere to develop and play. And I don't think the club want to lose a talent like him. And obviously, Giro, Hato, and other players. So, my friends, first match preview of the 25-26 Prem season is done. It's out the way. Share your predictions for the game right now. My prediction for the game tomorrow is a 2-1 win to Chelsea. I think maybe defensively, when subs get made, the disorganization might lead us to conceding a goal near the end. But I see us taking the lead and then maybe having to still things out as Crystal Palace try and mount a comeback, which is one of their favorite things to do at the moment. So leave your predictions, leave your predicted lineups, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Cool.